So life is pretty good. You've been a lawyer. You've been a celebrity. You've been a reality show star. You've been a contributor on different news programs. Now you're hosting your own news program, which led to a discussion with Iyanla Van Zant. You state to the world that you would not date a bus driver. Eboni K Williams. Let's talk about it.
I love Brotha T.
How you doing? This is Terrion Wilson, aka your boy Brotha T, here with another one. So I'd like to thank you and welcome to the New Life Tree, where we like to give you little pine cones of wisdom for your motivation and mental health. If you don't know what that is, stick around, stay on the channel, you'll get it. Remember, I don't know everything, but I might know a lot of things. Okay, so let's get into the episode. Today we're talking about Eboni K Williams. If you don't know who that is, let me give you a very brief background. Eboni K Williams is a lawyer slash author slash TV host slash news contributor slash news anchor slash, you get it, she does everything. She also appeared on the 13th season of The Real Housewives of New York. Very big deal. She's now currently hosting her own show on the Griot Network. I watched this interview 4 times. I watched it 4 times on purpose, just so I can get a complete breakdown, okay? So she stated on the interview with Iyanla that she saw her on the Breakfast Club and demanded her people get Iyanla for that interview. So she sought out the interview. I'm going to have a different approach, Eboni. I'm not going to try to rip you apart like everybody else is trying to do. Nothing emotional here. I'm going to take parts of your interview. I'm going to show that some of what you were saying is absolutely correct. Some of it was off, right? You had some good information, some bad information. The problem is you mixed them all together, right? So we're going to break down some of what you said in that interview with Iyanla Van Zant. Without further ado, let's go to the first clip.
You know that black women are earning college degrees faster than anybody else. Many of us are doing like we're doing, Iyanla. We're getting those terminal degrees, those JDs, MD, PhDs. We also are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, along with Latina women in America. Pew Research said that women are now out-earning men. Yes. In 22 of the largest cities in America, including where I live, New York, DC, LA, you name it. When we talk, and I know that you've said that you cannot teach a man or tell a man how to be a man. So I will not ask you to indict men in this question. But I do want you to speak, Iyanla, to how women need to, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can create and not build, when some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if he owns the bus? If he owns it. If he owns the bus.
See, that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem. Okay. Because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society. I would date a bus driver if he loved driving the bus, if he was a man of integrity, if he was good to his mama, if he treated me well. I would date a bus driver But we think that it's another human being's responsibility to give us what we need instead of us building together. I can build with a bus driver.
So before we go any further, can we have a mic drop for Iyanla Van Zant, please? All right. So we're going to dissect the first part of that, where Eboni K Williams, she gave some information that was true and not true at the same time. Let's analyze it. First, let's look at the small clip.
Many of us are doing like we're doing, Iyanla. We're getting those terminal degrees, those JDs, MD, PhDs.
They're incurring a lot more student loan debt. What else did she say?
We also are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, along with Latina women in America. Pew Research said that women are now out-earning men. Yes. In 22 of the largest cities in America, including where I live, New York, DC, LA, you name it.
It is the truth that black women are going into entrepreneurship more than everybody else at a clip of 17%. And this is per the Harvard Business Review. Okay, so 17% of black women are starting businesses. This is more than every other group. Yes, more than white men, more than white women, more than everybody. But here's where it gets disingenuous once again. And this is not an attack on black women. I love black women. I'm just tired of people just throwing stuff out there like it's the truth when they're not telling the whole truth. Only 3% of those businesses that are started by that particular group of people are mature businesses. So out of 17%, only 3% are running a mature business. We need to be careful with the information. And Maury, tell her.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
Now to address whether women are out earning men. First of all, if you go on a state by state basis, then yeah, you're going to get some states where women are out earning men, especially black. However, in the United States, men out earn women. And if we go, let's say we do go with what you said, Eboni, then there will be no argument for the wage gap, right? You're saying it now. You're saying you're out earning men. Why isn't there a discussion about the wage gap in the opposite direction? We should talk about the wage gap if they're making more, right? Now, I'm not showing these stats. I'm not trying to launch an attack, an all-out attack like men are better than women. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm trying to do is show you how statistics sometimes can be shown to make your point, make your argument, and give you'll be reading a little confirmation bias into it because you wanted to say a certain thing, so you'll put that out there. The reason why she brought up those statistics is to make it look like specifically black men aren't good enough for black women, so it's hard for black women to find a black man. It's not true. It's not true, and I very much strongly dislike when people do that. Stop doing that. Just say that I'm having a hard time finding what I want. Just say that. Don't say, hey, it's impossible for us to get this and that because of this and that, when what you're saying is got a little truth to it, but a little bit of a lie snuck in there, right? And sometimes it's a lie by omission. You're leaving stuff out. You're not telling the whole story.
Okay, and I know that you've said that you cannot teach a man or tell a man how to be a man. So I will not ask you to indict men in this question. But I do want you to speak, Iyanla, to how women need to, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can create and not build, when some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if he owns the bus? If he owns it. If he owns the bus.
See, that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem. Because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society. I would date a bus driver.
So I know a big deal was being said about this particular part of the interview. I'm not going to totally destroy that because everyone has their preference. If you don't want to date a bus driver, don't date a bus driver. Me personally, I wouldn't, it's not my first preference, at least, to date a lawyer or a doctor, not because I'm sexist, but because I know doctors and a lot of, doctors and lawyers, they don't have a lot of free time, right? So I just don't want to get caught up in that situation where they don't have time for me. We can't find time for each other. I work for myself, so my hours are long too. So we might not even see each other for weeks at a time. Who knows? That's the reason. Has nothing to do with the profession they're working at. So my point is, everybody has their preference. So she has a right to say that. However, the reason why people got upset with her was the body language and how she said it and what she implied by saying it. Let's go into bus drivers just for a second. Believe it or not, in the US, and this is per salary.com, and I also checked some other ones like ZipRecruiter just to verify it, and they had the same numbers. They make a median salary of $42,000 a year, just over $42,000 a year. On the low end, $30,000. On the high end, $55,000. Now, I'm not saying you can save the world with that type of money. What I'm saying is that's actually not as bad as some people thought it would have been, right? And they are blue collar workers. Your man, Brotha T, I'm doing something different right now. I got a whole media company going on, but I come from a blue collar background. And when I first heard her make that statement, it made me even feel a certain way because that's the working background I came from. But I had to get rid of my initial emotions when I heard it. I had to get over that. And I had to sit down and really figure out what she was saying, right? I had to figure out exactly what was she talking about. Is just preference she's talking about? Just her preference? Or is there something wrong with that? I don't think, and I'm going to stick up for her just a little bit, just a tiny bit.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
I don't think she's trying to say it's something necessarily wrong with a bus driver per se. What I think she's trying to say is that that's not the level she wants to be on. Meaning, if he's not working his way up and he stays there, then she'll ultimately have to come down. That's how she's thinking, in my opinion. It might not be true, but I think that's what's going through her mind. So she wants a guy that's up here with her, or a guy that's moving up towards her, and eventually, you know what I mean? We're talking Ernie. We're not talking about anything else. I'm not saying somebody is lesser than anybody else. I believe that's where she's going with it. And I think the way she said it, the posture, her whole countenance, is that the right word? Her whole demeanor was a little bit off-putting, and people just took that, and that's why a lot of people got upset with what she said. Let's go back to the numbers. They're going to college more, right? So let's take a look at this, and this is very interesting. So according to AAUW.org, which is an organization that gathers statistics and certain types of things for women, these are resources for women, so I'm not using confirmation bias. I was all over the place grabbing information from everywhere, and then I sourced it, make sure it was legit. So this is a women's organization, and they are saying that the top fields that women are going to school for are health and medical administration services, human services and community organization, social work, public administration, criminal justice and fire protection, sociology, computer and information systems, and human resources and personal management. Human services worker, right? So if you go into human services work, you'll make a median of 31,000. That's actually, the median is lower than being a bus driver. Now, I'm not saying if you go into human services, you're a bad person, or I wouldn't date you or something. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, let's stop acting like being a bus driver is such a bad thing when you can go to college and get a degree making less than that bus driver. We need to really take a look at these things instead of just talking. Let's go with some more of this video.
I'll just speak for myself vulnerably. When I think of a masculine posture and what I would expect a man to do in my life, two things come top of mind, and they are provide and they are protect. And when my lived experience, and I think I'm still relatively young, I guess, but I'm 40 in September. So, I've had some relationships. And I've yet to find a man who has shown, this includes even my father, who was absent. I've yet to have a male energy that provided or protected me consistently ever. So I think that I have taken on the reins to protect and provide for myself. Because what I'm not going to do, Iyanla, is be without. Baby, it's not happening.
Be without what?
So that would
without what?
Be without protection, and be without the necessities of life.
All right, so this one is going to get tricky, right? This part of the video, because, and I don't want to offend anybody. So ladies, don't jump on me. I want you to really pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody, but I have to tell the truth about this one. Sometimes when you're talking about male and female interaction, there are certain things we do not understand about the other. I'm talking naturally. So sometimes, as a woman, you can be provided for and protected and not realize it. Some things you don't look at as protection, even though it's put there to protect you. For instance, let's say you're married and you just want to wear what you want to wear, right? Yeah, I'm going there. And then you're about to go outside and your husband say, hey, well, hold on. What's that? And you say, oh, it's, what I'm wearing. No, you're not wearing that. He's not necessarily trying to control you all the time. Sometimes he's doing that for your protection. It sounds weird, but that's what I'm talking about. You wouldn't know that a man would do that for your protection. He's protecting you in many different ways. He's protecting you from some of the vultures out there. He's protecting himself too. He's protecting his investment, of course, but he might be protecting you from getting SA'd, if you know what I mean, right? Assaulted in that way. He's protecting you from many different things. When a man does something like move to a better neighborhood, he's protecting you. Protection goes beyond just beating somebody up when they disrespect you. That's not all of what protection always is. If a man is taking care of the house, we're talking physically, doing things around the house, he's protecting you. Believe it or not. And providing goes further than just money. He might provide provision, of course, but he might provide leadership. He might provide, good suggestions, things. He might point you in the right direction on a path, especially if he's a logical thinking man. He'll point you in the right direction when it comes to a lot of things. And if you happen to be one of those ladies where you look at men a certain way, especially if they look a certain way and you look at them a certain way, you wouldn't look at that as leadership. You wouldn't look at that as providing. You wouldn't look at that as protection. What I'm trying to say is she went through her whole life. And I almost guarantee you somewhere along that path, there were men that provided for you and protected you. You probably didn't notice, or you probably didn't care. You have to pay attention out here. Now, I don't know her life. I'm not going to try to tell her this and that, because I don't know her life. I will put money on it. If I had $50 in my pocket and it was my last 50, I will put the whole 50 on it that she overlooked that. And if you get or if you ask those men that were in her life, they will probably tell you, oh yeah, I always looked out for her. Byron Allen owns the griot. I'm sure he looked out for you in some kind of way. That's what I'm saying. So now let's take the last part of that, talking about necessities. Let's see what Iyanla says about those necessities, those things that she's not going to live without. Let's see what Iyanla said about that.
Because I had already built and it all crumbled. The house, the husband, the job, the contracts, the professional career in the world, stripped of it all. All the attachments, the necessities of life, the creature comforts, until I was stripped down to the bare bone. And then I had to learn how not to build. Build is external. Create is internal. And we as women have the power to create and attract anything we desire. But we don't get still. We won't shut up. And we manage everything through fear, control, and survival. As opposed to feeling, knowing, and blooming or flourishing. Complete different thing. But since we've never been trained, we haven't been taught. So we do it the way we were taught to do it, which is very masculine in nature.
Okay, so first of all, before I elaborate on that, another mic drop for Iyanla, please. All right, here we go. So what she said is absolutely true. And it speaks to what I said. She said it in a very well spoken. She said it way better than I said it, right? But when I said sometimes women, they don't understand and they don't know what providing and protecting really is from our point of view. So they miss it. And it's because they weren't taught that. It's because they weren't trained for that. That's what Iyanla just said. So basically she confirmed what I just said. Now, I didn't say what I said because I knew Iyanla was going to say that. I'm coming off the dome piece, and it's true. And there's things the other way around. It's certain things that men really don't understand about women as well. So you will be like, well, I did this and that. And the man will be like, well, I don't see it like that, because we don't see life the same way. Some things that come natural to men don't come natural to women necessarily, and vice versa. Some things that come natural for women, they don't come natural for men necessarily. For instance, a man might not be a nurturer right away. We don't take naturally to nurturing, right? But we can teach ourselves to be more nurturing, right? We can learn to be more nurturing. You get what I'm saying? We can learn that, but it's not something that we're going to naturally do. Now, at some point after that video dropped, she got a whole bunch of comments. People went crazy. They went wild all over the internet. It went viral. And she had a response. We're going to break down certain parts of the response.
Now let's address the response to the interview and what some of y'all are calling a backlash. So let me be clear. First, I am a professional disruptor. So backlash is my business. And I will always take it on the chin for the sake of advancing the work, conversation, or movement. So know that I am completely unfazed by the onslaught of nasty comments, wishing me a sad, lonely, bitter existence until my untimely death. Now, that is some weird energy to be wishing onto a black woman, especially one who has dedicated her life to the liberation of black folk. But, whatever, I guess, go off. See, I wanted to talk about how do we close the gap between black women who do show up in a so-called masculine posture, those of us that are providing and building and protecting due to circumstances that we might feel make us feel that if we don't do it for ourselves, we will have to go without the resources and protections we need to feel safe in this world.
Okay, so there's so much to unpack just in that small little statement. I'm going to start off by stating this. When you and Iyanla Van Zant were having the discussion, the subject came up of bus drivers. You even stated that you were talking about not really necessarily talking about age or race because you done them all. That's what you said. Those are your words. Now that you got a little bit of backlash, some people came in with some comments. Now all of a sudden they're attacking a black woman. Right? No, they weren't attacking you because you were a black woman. Sorry, I hate to inform you. What they were attacking was They thought you were looking down upon the working man, the blue collar man. That's why they were attacking you. Now, I'm not saying whether it was right or wrong. What I'm saying is you can't take it and spin the narrative to make yourself look like the victim and everybody else look like the bad guy when you know what you said. It was a little rough. It was a little rough. You have your right to your preference, but your body language was a little rough, and we're going to get into that in just a second.
Been extremely transparent about the fact that my life choices and my chosen lifestyle are far outside of the norm. So when I said that I would date the bus owner, a lot of y'all heard something different. Some of you heard the following: bus drivers are whack. Bus drivers are broke. Oh, and I'm too good for a bus driver. The only thing is, y'all made that part up. See, I said what I said. But then some of y'all started talking about salaries and hourly wages, pensions and benefits. And that's wild because I was never talking about money at all. I was talking about Black ownership, but some of y'all made it about money. I'm talking about ownership, Black enterprise and entrepreneurship, because really I am talking about Black liberation. And if you read my book, you'll understand why. So I'm standing 10 toes down on that position, and I don't really care if you're hurt or offended by it.
Okay, so I smell somebody being disingenuous, and let me explain why. What ended up happening, even though the original discussion wasn't about Black men at all, when you got the backlash you wanted to make it about Black men, and you're looking out for Black men and this Black empowerment and stuff. No. You ran to that because you wanted to be the victim. This is true. You ran to that because you wanted to be the victim. And it's not about Black empowerment. There's no way to empower somebody. Okay, let me break it down like this. Eboni, people weren't attacking you because they think you look down on a bus driver. That wasn't the only reason why people were coming at you. They were coming at you because of this. You see that? That's why they were coming at you. And that's why a lot of them came to the conclusion that you were saying you were better because you made that face, the body language. Very important. And I want to give the flowers to Iyanla Van Zant. She saw the mindset. She wanted to expose the mindset. So she set out to intentionally give you a question to trigger you because she knew that was on your mind. Also, Eboni K Williams, her background is law. She was an attorney, a lawyer. What she's doing is she's arguing her side. She can't separate herself from what she did for a living. I don't know if she's practicing right now. But a lot of times, and this is one reason why people really don't like lawyers, they'll take something that's not necessarily true and they'll make great arguments for it or against it because that's what they've been doing for years. Think about it. So when she was getting that, when people were coming against her, oh man, okay, so let me argue my side. Let me change some things around and let me make it seem like I'm actually right. So if you're against me, then you're actually against Black liberation and Black empowerment. That's not true, sister. And just because somebody is driving a bus does not mean they don't own anything, because you can drive a bus and you can have stocks over here. You can be invested in these businesses over here. You could be driving just to get benefits while you're doing your other things, your side hustle or your business that you're building up. You might be driving a bus while you have another business. When you get that business to a certain level, then you're going to retire from doing the bus. Or a lot of times when you become an entrepreneur, you want to know as much about that industry as possible. Maybe they're about to start their own transportation services. Maybe they want to stay being a bus driver a few more years to get as much information as they can in that industry so they can be an expert when they get that when they build their businesses to a certain point. I know what I'm talking about because your man Brotha T kind of did that. I was a blue collar worker, a utility worker, if you will. I put in cable, internet, phone, security cameras, all types of things, alarms. And I also had my media service on the side. My media company was already created. I was still doing that work though, because I was trying to build it to a certain point. You get what I'm saying? So just because they're doing that doesn't mean they're going to still do that forever. Your answer, in my opinion, if it would have been more along the lines of, yeah, I would consider it, but there's certain things that he would have to do. Like, for instance, he'll have to have a plan, some upward movement, some kind of way, and we would have to know what the plan is, and it would have to work. If you would have answered it like that, nobody would have had a problem. Think about it, because we're not telling you to get a dude that makes less than you and he's going to stay there forever and that you should be fine and happy and content with that. Nobody's saying that. What a lot of people are attacking is the other things that came with it, like the attitude. And you even have the attitude now. You don't even realize it, maybe. Let's go to the next part.
But see, no, some of y'all were too busy naming and shaming me personally and black women in general as undesirable, gold diggers, and much worse. Now, I suspect that some of y'all are the same men that were bringing home C's and D's on your report cards, only to then be coddled by parents that said, well, that's okay, as long as you're doing your best. Well, listen, I love and believe in the excellence of black men. So no, my dear, C's and D's or any other form of mediocrity is not okay.
All right, so I'm about to get to cooking on this one. So when she mentions C's and D's, that's what we call shaming language. What she's trying to do is say, because you disagree with me, I'm going to say something to shame you. Actually, some kids will get C's and D's. Do you understand the level of entrepreneurship with C students? A lot of very successful entrepreneurs were C students. I'm not making it okay to be a C student, by the way. You want to make A's and B's. However, being a C student does not make you dumber or does not make you this or that. If that means that you weren't great at that. You weren't great at your studies. You weren't great at being a student. Sometimes it's the environment as well. And it could be the instructors a lot of times. Well, we'll go into that later. And now, because you disagree with me, because you came at me a certain way, you're coming at all black women. No, stop it. Let's stop the shaming language. No, those men weren't attacking black women in general. Maybe a few of them. But most of those men, I almost guarantee, were talking about you individually because you were the one that said it the way you said it. Let's go back again. This is what they saw. This is what they felt. This is what got you in trouble. And when you started that interview off, let's not forget, you told some truths mixed in with what, Murray?
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
Let's not forget that you did that. You have to own that part. So to Eboni K Williams, that's why you were wrong. That's why you were wrong. You're not wrong in wanting what you want out of life, but you're wrong about twisting it and making it about black empowerment when the original discussion had nothing to do with race. It only had to do with race to you when you felt like people were coming against you. Instead of eating it, you wanted to make it, oh, you're attacking me now. And she even went on the Breakfast Club. I'm not breaking that interview down because that'll be beating a dead horse. When she went on to the Breakfast Club, the very first part of the interview, when they talked about the bus driver went out the window, she talked about black empowerment and black excellence in the Breakfast Club video. I have no problem with you talking about black excellence and all of that, but you can drive a bus, at least for the moment, at least, and still be on your way to excellence is my point. So stop trying to run a game on us. We're tired of people like you, especially lawyers, trying to talk to us as if we don't really get it, as if we can't see that you're freaking lying. We can see it. We can feel it. We see it all in your body language. You're lying. You want to make it about black empowerment. You didn't answer that original question for black empowerment. Let's go to it again. You see this? Is this black empowerment? That's black empowerment right there, right? Yo, I'm going to let Iyanla take us out.
A woman, she's got to feed the babies. So she's going to do what has to be done. We have a level of tenacity that many men haven't experienced, particularly men of color, because their genetic memory is that if they're too much, if they're too grown, if they're too big, if they're too smart, they're going to get hung. That's a genetic memory.
Yeah.
So we have to understand that who they are as men, I don't want to say is fragile or delicate, but it's more sensitive to our mouth. And our mouths are just, our mouths are out of order. I'm sorry, with each other, but definitely with men. It's, and I'm raising my hand. The only reason I can speak this is because I've lived it. And I knew how my life changed when I shifted from external masculine aggression to an internal knowing where I get my guidance and my direction. It's just different. And most women think it won't work in the world. But look at me. And there are hundreds of me. I'm not alone.
Drop the mic for Iyanla. Oh man, this is your man, Brother T, and this is to the ladies out there. Don't think that this video was set up to attack women or attack her because she's a black woman. I'm attacking wrong. And I know she was trying to run game. To Eboni specifically, look inside. You'll find all the answers you need inside. It's never external, and it's not what you think. You think it's about black excellence, but yes, you are tying black excellence along with salary. You can get the salary and still be the worst individual to ever live. Remember that. This is your man, Brother T, and I'm gonna catch you on the next one. Peace.